It's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, joined today by Ed Graham. He is a councilman in the city of Chino Hills, which is just inside San Bernardino County. And you remember surely, sir, during the presidential campaign, there was talk about anchor babies and maternity tourism, and the terms got confused. Right. But let's talk about specifically maternity tourism, because that's something that has impacted Chino Hills specifically. What is maternity tourism?
Well, until late 2012, we never knew what that was.
Right. No, I'd never heard the term.
But basically, during that period of time in late 2012, residents around a hilltop were complaining about the number of Asians that were going in and out of a private residence.
Right. And when you say Asians, these are not Asian Americans.
No,
these were nationals.
Strictly Chinese nationals.
Chinese nationals.
And they were being escorted in and out in minivans.
Right.
And they were all pregnant. There were about 17 to 20 of them living on top of a hill.
Right.
So we started getting complaints about that.
But there was confusion, like, what are these pregnant Chinese women doing going in and out of this house?
Right. And there was just talk. But then what happened is there was a major sewage spill, which allowed the city code enforcement to go in because the sewage was coming up on this one hill on the mountaintop.
Right.
And when they rolled in, we found that this ranch home had been subdivided into about 20 different apartments, all with their own bathrooms and cooking facilities, and nothing was permitted. So the home was shut down because of health and safety reasons, and the women all just disappeared all of a sudden.
But what was uncovered is those women were coming from China,
right,
delivering babies,
correct,
in America, and then convalescing in this home.
Right, or they were going somewhere else, and then they were going back to China.
And going back to China.
They were all going home.
And
right.
That's what's interesting, because, look, I don't love the term anchor baby, but that term means that a non-citizen will come to America, deliver a child, and hope to gain citizenship through their child.
Correct.
Because their child is a citizen as a result of the 14th Amendment.
Right.
We saw that happening. We've seen that happening with Central Americans. But with the Chinese nationals, that wasn't what was happening. They weren't staying. They were going back.
They were going back. Right.
But with the intent, though,
of insurance, basically, where they could come back to the U.S. later.
For what purpose? See, that's what's so interesting.
There's a lot of speculation that I've heard about is just because if things go south in China,
right,
they were able to leave and come back to the U.S.
But I understand, sir, a lot of it was so that these children in 15 to 20 years could return for high school and or college.
Correct.
Because the reality is we have fine educational institutions in California and in America.
Right.
And if they're an American citizen by being born here, look, they may not get in-state tuition, but they're clearly more admittable, I guess, although who knows.
It's a lot easier to go to school in the U.S. And hence the term birth tourism.
Right.
They only come here to birth and then went back home.
And these are presumably wealthier families.
Yeah, we've heard estimates from $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month.
Right.
From each individual to come here.
So as time marched on, in 2015, for example, LA County identified 28 birthing hotels in the San Gabriel Valley. Mm-hmm. I believe a good number of them were in Chino Hills. A task force was founded to try to deal with the situation. But the problem is, it's not illegal for a foreign national to deliver in the United States.
Correct.
That's not illegal.
Yeah, purely a federal problem, and nobody on the federal level, from what I've discovered, wants to deal with it. It's just too big of an issue, I think, with not enough of a reward for somebody that champions that cause.
Well, but let's talk about the new administration, though, because the new administration clearly has made immigration a priority. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard much about birth tourism from the new administration, and I don't think China is listed as one of the 7 countries of
Right.
concern. But I wonder.
Yeah, that might, this particular subject might pique their interest. You know?
But well, let me
I've not
ask
heard
you,
anything about
but,
that
But
yet.
from your perspective, do you want the federal government's interest piqued on this?
I think it's a loophole,
Right.
and I think it's one that can be closed easily. Well, not easily, but I
Right,
think
because here's part of the challenge. We think about some of the rhetoric coming out of the new administration as it relates to immigration. A lot of strong words against our Central American neighbors. But what we know is that a lot of the immigration, and increasingly so, coming from Asia. And Asians will soon bypass Latinos in terms of migrants, both documented and undocumented. So is a community like Chino Hills with large Asian communities interested in calling attention to itself vis-a-vis the federal government?
And that remains to be seen. I think that the level of all the rancor back in 2012 has really died down a lot.
As it relates to maternity tourism.
Right. As it relates to that particular issue.
But we still have an administration
Right.
that is most interested in deporting those that are not documented. I know there's that 7-country issue, but I don't think they're making distinctions in terms of deportation. And I mean, what kind of impact could that have in a city like Chino Hills with large, I have no idea what your documentation status is, but could that be problematic?
I really don't think so. I don't think there's an interest in dealing with, the Chinese nationals and Chinese Americans.
But let me ask you, are your citizens worried? Are they coming
I
to
have not
you?
heard anything about that yet.
Really?
Yeah. And it may be because, we're a pretty affluent society in
Yeah.
Chino Hills.
Right, it's a well-heeled community.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people have already established there's some type of visa program.
Right.
that
As I
they're here.
understand it, is if you do have any form of documentation, whether if you're from the 7 countries or not, you should have some modicum of protection. Has there been rumblings about safe city declarations, sanctuary declarations?
Nope, none of that at all.
What do you make of that?
I think that the Asian American population in Chino Hills at least, is pretty confident
Right.
that they're well protected and that they've already dotted all the I's they need.
Right. So as it relates to the new administration, be it on maternity tourism or just the general immigration questions, Chino Hills is calm?
Very, very calm. Yeah.
Because some communities in your area are less calm.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
That would be, yeah. Our neighbor to the north, Pomona,
a
there's
lot
a lot of discussion.
concern
Yeah.
and okay, I'd love for you to come back and talk more about this issue because I have a feeling it will not go away.
All right.
Okay, his name is Ed Graham. He is a councilman in the beautiful city of Chino Hills, which is right on the edge of the San Bernardino, Los Angeles County line. I'm Brad Pomerance. You're joining us on Local Edition.